And I'm sure that if anybody else wants to come in, they can. Welcome to JavaScript Programming with HTML5 and CSS. I am Paulette Neal Allen, and just a little bit about me. I'm the Mountain Region Director for NAGW, so if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to help you with NAGW stuff as well as with stuff on the topic. I'm a Systems Analyst too for the City of Thornton in Colorado. What that means is that's a really fancy way of saying, come on in. It's a really fancy way of saying that I'm a programmer. I work in IT. I am a former computer science adjunct professor at the Colorado Technical University, which is the private college or private university where I received my master's degree. I am also, as you can see, the bass guitar queen, at least in our Praise Bandit Church, because I'm the only bass guitarist in our Praise Bandit Church. I love geocaching in my spare time. So when Tim was talking yesterday about other, important civilian applications of the GPS systems, I'm like, ooh, I know one. Okay. I'm also a grandmother, a mom and a grandma. I'm a cat mom, a dog mom, and reluctantly, a bird mom. My husband has a cockatiel. It talks. It learned my first text message tone. So I was in the shower one day and I heard the bird making my text message tone, but I just thought it was the text message. Anyway, it was funny when it happened, okay? All right. So what are we going to do today? Your three basic takeaways are some basic JavaScript, JSON, some jQuery, Ajax. I want to talk about the power of HTML5, and I want to talk a little bit about CSS3 and what works now as opposed to, because the specifications are cool, and then you get down to, but that doesn't work, right? So we're going to go over JavaScript and HTML5 form stuff. We're going to talk about JSON. We're going to talk about CSS3 goodies, some things that you guys will probably be really excited about. And then we're going to look at, we're not going to write it together because we don't have enough time, but we're going to look at a basic application, which is voting with dollar signs. We'll get into that. Before we start, though, I have a confession to make. As I started really sitting down and preparing the material for today, I was really going to focus on JavaScript, because that seems like something, just basic JavaScript, like Rachel was saying yesterday, the basics, And then I started looking, and as I was digging through and choosing what to do in each of the sections, almost everything I was going to look at in JavaScript, HTML5 does without JavaScript. So there's not going to be as much JavaScript today as maybe you were kind of hoping there was. But I'm hoping what you'll see is that maybe you don't need as much as you were thinking you might need. So, onward and upward. HTML video, native in HTML5. You just put a video element in. Browser support, here's where you're going, man, I do not want to deal with more plugins. MP4 format, supported in all major browsers. WebM format, supported in most browsers. Yeah, Internet Explorer, that probably didn't surprise you at all. Safari, that didn't really surprise me. It's the bigger companies that sometimes have a harder time adapting to things. And then OGG format, also supported in a lot of different browsers. If you see down here at the bottom where I've taken something directly from a site. By the way, these slides will be available for you to download with all of the links, because I'll provide some other links as we go along for tutorials and references and things. So you'll be able to get the links. You don't have to try to squint at the screen and then write it down real fast, and then tonight you can't read your handwriting, at least if you're like me. I'm sure you can read your own handwriting perfectly, but I never can. So I took this particular graphic I got directly from the W3 schools. So what does the video element look like? Because I know that's one of the things we all have to deal with, right? Everybody wants video. That's it. There's 4 lines there. And this is obviously just a screenshot, but those lines of code make this work. So you've got your video tag. I put width and height in there. Controls make these guys show up. That's just the attribute controls. And then this video is the same video, it's just in 2 different formats. And you can put all 3 formats up there in there if you'd like. It will take the first one that that the browser knows how to support. And then, because HTML prior to HTML5 ignores tags that it doesn't understand, it just ignores them, it doesn't do anything with them. If you have not yet loaded a video, you'll get whatever's in there. So you can deal with older browsers however you think is the best way to deal with it. And there's the video tag, and then there's what it looks like. There's the control. You say, that's nice, Paulette. But, whoops, wait, I have a cute slide. Let's see it in action. Maybe, if I can figure out how to get it on the screen. Not that one. But this one, can I like drag it over here? Ha! Look at me. So, controls, don't make me a liar. Oh, I know what I did. I didn't load the video. Sorry. All right, let's see what we can do about that real quick. Where's my mouse? Sorry. Anybody know how to sing and dance? Not well enough. Preparing download. Download ready. There it goes. All right, let's try this one more time. Control, refresh. Refresh, shift refresh, close. I should have come in here and practiced, I'm sorry. Where am I running them from? Running them right here. There we go. And I told it not to automatically run. There you go. It was just a really short demo video. but it worked. All right. HTML5. This is where I got really excited. Forms. We've got all kinds of new actual input types. So you're used to collecting, we are used to collecting your name and your address and your email and your telephone and a date and whatever we need to collect. We're used to collecting those in text boxes and then doing some validation, probably server side, possibly in JavaScript, to make sure that we're really getting a telephone number or an email address or a date time format before we do something with it. We also are used to we have some new input attributes. So you've got your type equals text, and then you've got, some other attributes. Well, you can do type equals text and use a regex pattern now. You're used to having to check required fields in JavaScript or in server-side programming or both. All you need now is this required tag. Again, these links, I will upload my slides so that you can pull them down and you can see these links. The official specification, of course, is at w3.org. Slightly easier format on your brain. Again, I like W3 schools. You can find demos anywhere. Or you can find easier on your brain things a lot of different places. So what does the HTML5 native validation look like? Well, over here we've got Chrome. This is just pictures. I pulled them from html5rocks.com. They have screenshots from all these different devices. We've got Chrome on a desktop, Chrome on an Android. We've got IE10, believe it or not. And we've got Opera. And they have a couple other ones, but I figured you guys would rather be able to see than see all of them and really small. So how do I do that? You guys probably can't see that, can you? I've got body, form, input, type, email. I gave it an initial value of foo, which is not in an email format. And then I just put a submit button on there. So it came up and it automatically had foo in it, and I just hit submit. And it says you must enter a valid email address. No programming required. Okay? Down here I've got input type text. Value, I put in the Toronto postal code. And I put in a regex, so I've got pattern and this regex. I cheated. I went online and I grabbed the regex for a US zip +4. So that's the pattern. Again, I just added a submit button. I had it come up with Toronto's postal code in there. Unfortunately, I messed up. That is not the postal code for the Flames Stadium. It's just a Toronto. No hockey fans? Okay. So I had it come up with the default value. I just hit submit. Maybe suboptimal. You must use this format, but then it doesn't say what. So this, the message, is accessible via JavaScript, all right? And we'll get into that a little bit. Right here. So there is an API in the DOM that you've got for JavaScript validation. Make sure, so I've got my form and then this no validate attribute property. I'm going to set it to true. Okay, so by default, it's going to validate The browser is just going to validate it using whatever however it's interpreted the HTML5 specifications. If I set it to true, now I have to validate everything in the form. We're back to what we're used to. It's not going to automatically look at the regular expression. It's not going to automatically look at the email address or the number. Okay? You've got a will validate property, meaning this field is a type that is okay to validate. What you want to do is check to see if field.type is not the same as field.getAttribute.type, because older browsers will come back and say, well, I'm a text field. I'm an input of type text. Because they don't get I'm an input of type email, or I'm an input of type whatever. So you've got to compare these two things before you start checking, okay? Notice I used the 3 equal signs, or in this case, not and 2 equal signs. That means is absolutely the same, not is kind of the same. Okay? We're talking same object versus same value here. Okay? Just unsupported input types fall back to text, and text fields will validate. Just not quite the way that you thought they were going to, because you thought they were going to be HTML5. Okay, moving right along, because we don't have that much time. JSON, it stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It's an open standard format. Your data is serialized in key value pairs. What does that mean? That means that it looks a lot like some of the stuff that you're really used to dealing with, and that is form data. You're used to your form data coming in my text field and the value, my radio buttons, my and its value, okay? Same type of thing. It's just serialized. So well, I'll show you what you end up with, okay? Despite the name, because it's JavaScript Object Notation, despite the name, it's language independent. Okay, it's often used with Ajax. It does have a lot of security issues. And the best summary of security issues that I found out there was on Wikipedia. Basically, what it's telling you is I'm transporting data. It could be messed with as it's going, because it's going back and forth in text. And if I was really evil, or if you attended AJ's seminar here yesterday about hacking, if I wanted to be bad, I could really mess with your data. But you know that, because you would never, all of you know better than to just take form data and go, I'm going to put this in my database, right? Right, okay. All right, so we're going to create an object. And I'm going to create an object that we're going to kind of use later. So up here I have var data. And it's an object, so I'm using curly braces. I'm going to call it projects. And it's in quotes because that's what I'm calling it. It's not an actual variable yet. And then the colon says, here it is. And we're going to start an array of things. And the first one is a thing. So I'm using a curly brace. So we've got, so far, if you're counting, we've got equals, curly brace, stuff, colon, square bracket, curly bracket. So down at the very bottom, which I don't show you because I made it too long, you're going to have to account for and close curly bracket, square bracket, curly bracket. Okay? Inside an object of the projects, I've got, again, I made it up. It's a project number, and its value is 1. I've got a project name, and its value is residential sidewalk and street replacements. And then I close that object with my closed curly brace, and I put a comma because I'm going to put another one. And I did the same thing, project number 2, project name residential street program. Did I spell that right? I did not spell that right. Awesome. Now you know what I'm not good at, and that is spelling. I get good grades in creative spelling when I was in school. Unfortunately, my teacher was not impressed. Okay, then later on, down after I've defined this variable data, that's this object of projects, I'm going to deal with it. So a little further down in my script block, I've got a variable output that's just going to be a string. And I'm going to create an unordered list of objects. So I open my, my UL tag, I scroll through, and I forgot to change that right there. That should be projects. I will do that before I upload it. So it says data.users, but it should really be data.projects. And I'm just going to loop through for each one, I in data.projects. And I'm just making a list item out of each of them. Data.projects at location I, the project number, plus, you know, concatenate a dash in there, and then that should also be projects, and then project name and list item. Close the list item, close the unordered list, and then I'm going to grab a div I shoved on the page that's called placeholder. I'm going to put its inner HTML as the value of all that output that I just built. Okay, here are the references, some of the references that could be helpful to you in just messing with this. Okay? When I started thinking about what I was going to include in here on Ajax, I realized that I could be still talking next Tuesday. Unfortunately, none of you will still be here then. So what I will do is I will say there are a lot of excellent resources out there about Ajax. Ajax is short for asynchronous JavaScript and XML. It's a broad group of web technologies that can be used to implement a web application that communicates with the server in the background without interfering with the current state of the page. And this wheel is there because I'm not reinventing it. This is the wheel I'm not reinventing. I got that directly out of Wikipedia on Ajax. So the group of technologies that are covered under Ajax, and this is why we'd be here till next Tuesday, you use HTML and CSS for presentation. You use the DOM to interact with the presentation and the data, probably based on your data, doing different things with the presentation. You use XML for the interchange of data and XSLT for its manipulation, or much more frequently now you're going to see JSON instead of XML. And then you use the XML HTTP request object, which is a JavaScript object or an ECMA script object. And then you're going to use the JavaScript to bring all of these technologies together and make it do stuff on your page. Hey, I had a demo. Come back here. Oh, that's because it's up there. Oh, sorry. So, I built the code. So we had the JSON object that we built, and then the little JavaScript build us the unordered list and the ordered list. Okay. Here's what it came out with when I corrected the users instead of projects text. So we've got project 1, residential streets and sidewalks replacements. Project 2, residential street program. Project 3, Grange Hall Creek pedestrian underpass. I stole these off of my neighboring city's website because that's what neighboring cities are for. And because I like walking along that path. And project number 4 is Art in the Parks, which they have a program going on right now where they're buying more. Come back. All right. So, questions? Moving right along. CSS3, border radius. This is one of the first ones that I thought, hey, this is cool, right? You've got a border radius. I can do rounded corners now. You say, well, why do you have a funny looking little dot, little circle there? That circle is what the radius is. So if in this particular case, I defined my border radius as 10 pixels, and therefore, if I got that circle completely, absolutely correct on there, the radius is 10 pixels. Does that make sense? The radius, now remember that's half of the diameter, right? Okay. You can do a border image, okay? So here's where I have, well, here's where I started getting kind of fancy with it. There's some WebKit stuff for Safari and Opera, but I did this in Chrome. And I didn't use, it's just the border image, it's the URL of the border image, and then you see right here I said 30%. This 30% is, well, what slices am I going to take of this image? So this image over here, this is the original image. It's sliced 30%, it's sliced at 30 and 60%, 30 and 60%, and then this piece is used as the corner. This middle piece is used to stretch all the way across here. This piece is used as that corner, and I think you can figure out how the rest of it works. Okay, so this image, it then became this border. And I used autumn leaves because I'm so excited that it's fall. I love fall. Okay, CSS3, we can also do multiple column layouts. All you have to do is say columns and tell it how many and the distribution. Flexbox, which I think is just absolutely fascinating. Rachel talked a lot about it yesterday, so I took a little bit of the stuff that I had in here out. You've got Flexbox and you've got Grid. Grid is good if you want it to stay exactly where you put it. Okay, so if you put 3 things across the top, it's going to always stay with 3 things across the top. They're just going to get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. Whereas with Flexbox, if you run out of room, it's just going to shove it down on the next row. Okay, so slightly different theories about how to deal with that grid of stuff that you're resizing. You can do CSS3 animations, which are really cool, but which I felt were probably not as important to you guys as some of the other stuff I wanted to briefly mention, because again, we're not here till next Tuesday. And then CSS3 fonts, you can embed them. You can use whatever font you want. You just provide the URL to the font. They don't have to download them. It shows up beautifully. I'm not a font geek. I don't understand the appeal. If they let me actually do design, you'd have the logo up here. You'd have some navigation here, and you'd have stuff. So you don't want me dealing with your actual design. But you guys can do fonts. Those are things that I figured were really important, or at least up there on your importance list. All right. So now for something completely different, and Carolyn didn't make it in here, so she can't see that I did use her HTTP status cat. That's status 101, we're switching protocols now. We're not really switching protocols, but we're doing something different. And those are cats. staring at you. All right, so what is our challenge? I took our challenge for our little programming project, or our little display project. I actually took it off our list, okay? Many of you possibly know Chris, or have at least interacted with him on the list. Last spring, he posted on the list and asked if anybody had this, a solution to this that didn't use Flash, okay? Where he wanted a survey for citizen input. They wanted to be able to prioritize possible traffic and capital improvement projects. What the person that asked for it really wanted, though, was dollar signs, and then, you know, the voting dots, beloved by every meeting organizer ever, where you get as many dots as they give you, and then you can vote 3 times for one project if you think it's really important, and you can use your dots on, you know, all 3 dots on 3 different things. Okay? I did contact Chris and ask him if it was okay to use his name in vain. He said sure. I did send him this code because he was not able to be here this year. So here's the picture that he sent out, and it's kind of small. It says, using the 10 dollar signs below, please place them on the programs that are most beneficial to you. And then he's got project 1, project 2, project 3, project 4, project 6, all of them. He actually counted. I didn't count in order. So, with the addition of 3, count them, 3, very small JavaScript functions, you have the power. You have the power. Must be either really late or I'm just not as funny as I think I am. I'm just not as funny as I think I am is what usually happens, okay? So the first function that you need is allow drop. Okay, remember we're in JavaScript case counts. And you need this to accept a variable, 1 parameter. And it needs to just call the function prevent default. That's all you need to do. Open, and I told you it was a small function, okay? The second one you need to do is drag. It also has 1 parameter. And all it does is you access the data transfer property, call the set data function, and then you need to do something with it. Okay, text, and then the event.target.id. What, pray tell, is that? Here's the last one. Here's your drop event. So you're preventing default behavior on the target, because you're dropping it on the target. You've got your data that you're declaring to be the data inside the object that you passed called text. And then you're going to just append the child inside wherever you're going to put it. Okay, so these are the 3 functions you need to do drag and drop. Okay, so where, pray tell, do I use those? So I've actually got 2 of them in here because what I did is I made it so that you could drag the $ down and then you could drag it back up if you wanted to. So 2 of them are here. We've got a div. I creatively called it drag from here. The on drop event is defined as your drop function that we just talked about. Your on drag over is defined as the allow drop event that we just put here, and then I gave it some style. I changed the wording a little bit. Vote with your dollars, drag $ to see how you think we should just take the funds, whatever I said. And then I have an image. I gave it an ID. I said it's draggable is true. And then on drag start event is my drag function we just defined. Voila, it's magic. Okay. Here's draggable and undrag I'm showing. So I had 2 slides and I talked you through both of them, sorry. All right, so then on drop and on drag over. So down here, I've got the cute little divs for each project. Project 1, residential sidewalk and trail replacement. Project 2, I did spell it right there. Project 3, Project 4, it went on down. I think I included like 6. So let's see it. All right. What did I do with the $sign that I should have done with it? Stop it. Don't do this to me, computer. Because it's not going to do that if the image is broken. And this is going to die. Remember when it came up and said, it's on the other side? Okay. Sorry. Oh. All right. There we go. So now when I drag a $sign, I can say, okay, I want $2 signs for the sidewalk and trail replacements, and I want one on the streets program and another one on the underpass. Wait, maybe not on the streets, I want it there on the sidewalks, art in the parks, and so on. And there's your... Yes, where it says your server-side submit button here, and your vote goes to the following projects. I believe books say it best. That part is left as an exercise for the reader. Well, because I'm actually dragging and dropping. Every time I give 4 there, now I've got 4. So if you count, I started out with 10, and I've still got 10 that are distributed amongst my projects. Yes. As a matter of fact, one of the early tutorials that I looked at, they were using div elements. I wanted to make it a $sign. I originally was looking at, well, let's take it further. Let's make it a div. Let's use CSS to make it big and green, and I'll just use the $sign. I figured you guys knew how to do CSS, and so in the interests of trying to get out of here before Tuesday, I figured we'd just use, and I didn't use an alt text, and I know I was bad, and I'm usually the accessibility Nazi at work, but. And I used the rounded corners to show you that. I used the pretty design. What did I do with there it is. See, I'm just pointing at something nebulous, and that doesn't help you, does it? So, how did I do? We have a few minutes left. It would be great if I figured this out. Okay, so use the source. How to take off 3 fandoms all at once. Again, all the source files, including the images and the video, and the place that I downloaded those short little videos from, they were specifically meant to be short little demo videos you could use to demonstrate the new HTML5 video tag, and they're royalty free because really they're just a thing going. But all of the links in my document are active. So when the slide deck gets posted, all of the source files will be posted as well, since I know that you probably couldn't see them on the screen. Feel free to email me. I'm Paulette at NAGW.net, which is really hard to remember. Actually, it might be. Any questions? Oh, that was fast. Yes, ma'am.
This is a dumb question. To use HTML5.
There's no such thing as dumb questions. Some of my answers may sound really silly.
To use HTML5, do you just start using the new tags, or do you put something in your code to say there's HTML5?
I used the new declaration. Oh, here. We'll just do it this way. So, just the doc type HTML, XML namespace, and that. You?
I was wondering how that drag and drop works for mobile devices.
You know, I didn't play with it on my mobile, so I don't know.
Thinking about the click.
It's going to be touch, I believe, because most things are. I didn't play with it. That's a really good question, especially with all this stuff, the talks we've had about how important mobile is. And that's one of those things that, you know, the homeless, I work a lot with some of the families that are temporarily homeless, and a lot of the times they have their phone and maybe their car. So you're right. That's an important point, and I don't know. But if you want me to, I'll get back with you. Give me your email address, and I will get back with you. Anybody else? You twitched.
Without any like scientific data, like just looking at your traffic logs, like how many browsers, what percentage of these weeks you think support HTML5? I guess my question is,
Well, it starts at IE10 actually. So, and IE10's been in the wild for a while. The Chrome I have at work, I have not updated for 2 years. And it supported it, because that's where I did all this work. So, anecdotally, I'm going to say probably anybody but my mother, who doesn't update things.
And how does it degrade? You can't just drag it?
You just can't drag it. So you'll need to, for the drag and drop stuff, you'll need to have some other way of, you know, if this doesn't, I don't know, whatever you guys would normally do with that. That also is left as an exercise for the reader. Because I know that that's one of those discussions that would happen, and every single person in this room would end up with a different decision coming down on them. But the video does degrade gracefully. Anything else? I like my little thinking cat. We're going to go back to him. Actually, what I really like is this one, because it really annoys my daughter. Well, because it's use the Force Luke, Dumbledore with Star Trek. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, well, remember Pinnacles tonight down here, right out there where we've been eating all along. Cocktails start at 6:30. The awards dinner starts at 7. Be there or be square. Oh, wait, one last thing. Oh yes, there's the members meeting right after this. And that's really important because we're giving stuff away. Also important, please look in front of you. If you do not have a speaker evaluation form, let me know. I have more. Please fill them out completely and fill them out honestly. I promise, even if you give me suggestions, I will not need a psychologist. What I will do is take what you say to heart. I may not do it, but I will at least read it and consider it well. More importantly, your comments are read by the speakers committee, and they factor very heavily into what we do next year. So, on your way out, you can give them to me. I don't care. I'm not going to remember which one goes to who. You can give them to Debbie. You can leave them on the table and they'll get collected later.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming and putting up with my, I'm not